Good morning. Thank you for joining me today for our coffee chat. Today we're having a little bit of a different view for the podcast. I've asked my brother-in-law, John Maloney, to interview me so that I can just share about my life in a way that is more interesting than me just coming on camera and sharing my life. Also, John has this magical way of drawing out of people things that matter that we wouldn't probably normally say if we weren't led down that road for self-discovery. And he owns his own coaching business. He has a very interesting life. Currently, he is coaching. He's a Clifton Strengths coach. He has his own strengths listed in his view of his window. And he is my brother-in-law. So we share the same last name. John, welcome. And if you could just share some of what you do, why it's meaningful to you.
Sure, Laura, thanks. And first of all, I just want to say thanks for honoring me with the opportunity to interview you. You are certainly more qualified to do an interview than I am, but it's so fun to get to meet with you and be able to ask you some questions so that your viewers and people who are going to be influenced and grow because of your podcast. I'm so glad to be a part of kicking that off with you. So thank you. Appreciate that. And as Laura said, my name is John Maloney, and I am Laura's brother-in-law. And I have my own business, and I didn't start off that way. I'm retired Coast Guard, 24 years, and then had a couple of careers after that, one with the FBI for about 4.5 years, and then a couple of law firms along the way. And I'm not here to tell you my resume because that's not really that important, other than I want to say that if I can do all of those things, you can too, because no one is more surprised about all the things that I got to do in my life than me, and perhaps Laura's husband, my brother. He wouldn't have thought that. And maybe my high school guidance counselor, who would have said, "Really, John?" So I'm very grateful to be here. And I'm an executive coach, and I really help people discover who they are and then how to put that to work in a way that they never thought possible. So I really don't try to change people when I'm coaching them. I just help them to understand that the way they're created is just awesome. And when they can understand that and know that and have definition of that, they can really soar. And I've seen it person after person that happen. And it happened for me. And so I'm very grateful to be able to have done all of that, to be able to sit in front of Laura. It's kind of like a culmination of things for me. So thanks for that. And did I pretty much answer everything that I needed to in that? Yes? Okay with that?
You did. But then even when you were talking, it made me think back, like, what would my guidance counselor think of me? I don't know. She wouldn't believe it. I'd have to prove it to her. So, but I love that. No, you are a difference maker. And it made me think the other day, I'm hitting an age that people celebrate big typically. And I'm learning how to do all of these things. And it's the same thing with you. You learned how to do all of these things. You didn't know how to do them. And you learned so that you could help other people. And what a perfect husband that you don't try to change anybody. You just try to celebrate who they are. Most people try to change people so that you can make them into what you feel like you need to make them into so that they fit the mold. But you just show them that they already fit the mold and how they can use those strengths for that. And I appreciate it. I've watched John do his work and magic in helping people in big meetings and share. And it's awe-inspiring and people, when they realize that they are who they are and it's okay, I feel like that's an epiphany for a lot of people that helps them be more successful just because they have that confidence. They don't have to change.
Well, kudos to you for stepping out, taking the risk of doing your own podcast. And I can just hear and see the joy in your face about starting this. So I'd say let's just jump right in and begin this journey. How's that? So
thank you.
The idea here when I talked to you beforehand was to for people to know you better. And so I'm just going to ask you those kinds of questions, and we'll see where this takes us. We don't have to be structured here. We can just kind of chat like we normally do. So I guess people would want to know for you to tell us about your journey. How did you get here? And just share a little bit about that with us, if you would.
Sure. funny because we did talk the other day, and then some of the questions that you were asking me, really, I've been thinking on them without realizing that I was thinking on them. And my journey is, I'm one of four children, and two of my siblings are entrepreneurs. The third one was an entrepreneur, but he did go into the service and he was in the army. And I was always the one that they joked worked for the man because I wanted a paycheck. I didn't feel like had an entrepreneurial spirit, didn't feel like I was creative at all. I just knew I was good at, numbers. There were specific things that I was good at, and I wanted a paycheck and I wanted that kind of security in my life. And now I'm almost 50, and I never prioritized a hobby in my life. I always prioritized work and saving and being conservative. And for the first time, I actually have a hobby that I've created with this podcast and my website. And I love it. I'm having so much fun. I never thought that I would. I really thought, I don't know if I felt not good enough or had imposter syndrome. I don't think it was that. I think it was that I really just didn't even feel like I could figure it out. I don't know why, because I figure lots of things out. But finally, I just said, I've had this domain, Happy Thrive Vibes. I've had the concept in my head for so long. I guess I just thought I have nothing to lose. So why am I not doing it? And here we are. I'm doing it.
Wow. Yeah. So I know this will sound condescending and I don't want it to, but so proud of you for doing this. This is great. And
Thank you.
and
It
I'm
is
so
out of my
excited.
comfort zone. It is
I'm
out of my comfort zone.
It is, but I'm so excited about being a part of it because I know I'm going to learn from you. In fact, I should share this, that, when you were getting your advanced degree or degrees and I was getting mine, we were kind of taking some of the same subject matter. So I would send you papers and posts, and because you're a lot better writer than me, you would review them. And I just really enjoyed sharing that with you and being, on the same page with those kind of things, and leadership development and human development and those kind of things. So I think this will be great for us too, as family, to kind of walk through it together. When I was talking to you day before yesterday, I was just kind of pinging questions to hear what you had to say so that maybe I could find some ideas to ask you about. And one of the things that you said just kind of blew me away. I asked, what outcome do you hope to achieve? And this is kind of what you said. I'm going to paraphrase, but you want to help people experience great satisfaction and abundance, not only in their life, but in their workplace as well. Because sometimes we separate those things and we spend so much time at work. Why not try to experience satisfaction and abundance? Can you talk a little bit about that as your goal for this podcast?
I can. I I feel completely lucky, blessed, all the words that would describe that. I've been able to work places where I really enjoy working. And if I didn't enjoy working there anymore, I found, somewhere else that I really enjoyed working. And I love my job. Most people who are doing what I'm doing, they're looking to do it full time, monetize, get out from, being working for the man and for the paycheck. But I love what I'm doing so much. I love being in education. It's my second career. Finance and banking and taxation was my first career. But I love working with people. I love working with students, K-12 and higher education. I love just being of service and making a difference. And when I was trying to figure out how I could when you start saying things like manifest and abundance and happy life, people just think you're a hippie reincarnated, and they just either gloss over or totally embrace it. It just depends on their personality. But I was trying to figure out, how can I talk about manifestation of your dream life by just doing more of what you love and surrounding yourself with people who help you be that way and embrace who you are and help you be a stronger person. And I thought, gosh, there's so much research about happiness in the workplace. And the whole premise of my podcast is happiness. Not that everybody is always so happy and the glass is always half full. That's not always the case. And I've worked places before where I had to work to make a living. I remember washing dishes when I was 11 years old in a beanery so that I could have the things that I wanted, because that's just not the kind of family that we were. We weren't wealthy at all by any means. So if I wanted something, I had to earn money to get it. And I've worked places where I just had to work because it was a job. but I don't want to do that in my life anymore. And if I have a choice and if I can help myself and others do more of what they love and be satisfied in their workplace, combine the two instead of trying to segregate your job, your life, your work-life balance. I have never had work-life balance ever. It's been the biggest joke of my life, but it's because I always find jobs that don't feel like jobs. I love what I do so much. I'm passionate about it. A lot of times I still have to reel it in a bit because not everybody, wants to Slack message at 8 o'clock at night and have conversations about ideas. But I love what I do. I want to be able to help other people love what they do. And I feel like culture, especially now, is so important for an organization. And when you have happy employees who are satisfied working there and look forward to working there and don't get the Sunday panics, I remember having a job where on Sunday I would just start to get panicky and shaky because I had to get up on Monday and do the thing I wasn't necessarily thrilled about. I don't get that. I haven't had that in a long time. And I'd love to be able to help other people feel that same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That great stuff. Um, and I'll just share with you, if I could, that, I am also a certified Gallup Clifton Strengths coach from Gallup. And learning my own strengths really helped me to do a lot of the things that you're talking about, not separating my work from my other life, whatever that is. And that I kept trying to find that purpose and abundance in my work. But I think there's two things that happen when I coach executives and people in regard to finding some of that joy and finding some of that peace and happiness that happens. And it looks like this: either they have found their purpose and they know who they are and they know their giftings and they apply that wherever they are, whatever their job is. I find many times people don't have to change careers in order to find that. It's understanding themselves first. So that's number one. And number two is people who don't know that and they have that Monday syndrome. Sometimes it is a career or a job change if they can afford to do that. But many of the people that I coach, they're in their 40s, they have families, they have responsibilities, and they really can't make that move. So I would ask you this: do you think your podcast is for both categories of people who think they need to change jobs in order to find that peace, and people who maybe just need to find out a little bit more about themselves and how to apply that where they're at? I hope that question makes sense. Very long-winded, but does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. And long-winded is my favorite because I'm very long-winded with my answers.
Okay.
I think my podcast is for everyone who just wants to get a morsel of an aha moment for themselves, of either things they can do for themselves, their life. Even if they feel like they can't make a change in their career, they can still listen. They can still listen to the speakers, the interviews, the guests that I have, and just let some of it resonate and feel like, man, how can I incorporate that? How can I incorporate 30 minutes of a hobby? I never had a hobby before. I had ideas of hobbies. I had things that I liked to do that I probably did for a weekend and then never did it again because I never made time for it. But you have to learn how to make time for the things that you want to do. Otherwise, all the things you have to do will take over your everyday. And then next thing you know, it's nighttime, then it's morning time, then you have to do the whole thing all over again. So I think it's about just listening to the conversations and being open-minded about how it can resonate with you. And I don't know who said it. I heard it before, someone say that they wanted to create a life that they didn't need a vacation from. A lot of people, they look forward to their vacation as if their life depends on it. And I want that life where I don't have to go on vacation to escape my life because I love my life so much. I can go on vacation to have adventures, but I'm not having to escape anything. And I hope that other people can just hear the conversations and let it resonate and find ways that they can find more joy in their life, more joy, more happiness, more gratitude. Even if it's just a little bit a day, even if it just is, I don't know, something. A lot of times we hear things and 3 weeks later we have the aha of, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
I get it now. Something will trigger it. And then they're like, that makes sense. I'm doing the thing that I do that I wish I wouldn't be doing, or I'm doing the thing that I wish I could be doing more. So whatever that looks like for anybody, but I think the podcast is for anybody. It's just about raising their vibration to a happier when you're happy, you just seem to have a better quality of life.
Great. So we've talked kind of about the philosophy of the podcast. In other words, you want to share with people, how they can find their niches, I think is the way you said it to me but I think you're going to do that by way of story. You're not just going to be, as you said, not a talking head and just sitting there talking. You're going to interview people that maybe are finding this purpose or abundance or satisfaction, or have found it. And so tell us a little bit about the kind of people that you might interview. Are they CEOs? Are they, presidents of companies? What are you looking for?
I was just having this conversation the other day because, when you're doing something like creating a podcast, there's so many courses out there. There's so many. I follow Kathy Heller. She's got a hugely successful podcast just because she has the magical ability to give people space to share. And, a lot of people have a niche, they specifically, I'm in education right now. So people were saying, you need to, it should be for educators, about educators. I'm like, I don't want to make it just about one group. I want to be able to share it with everybody. And I don't know. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I want to be able to share it with everybody and not put myself into a niche. Maybe that will organically happen. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I know when I started my own business, I kind of had this vision of what I thought it would be. And now 7 years later, it's not anything that I thought it would be. Just to share a little bit with you, what I mean by that is I thought I would be doing TED Talk type of influencing, with all of my vast experience, that kind of thing. Or I thought that I would be in a large organization running their organizational development arena. And I did that, but I found I was doing spreadsheets all the time on budgets and, trying to find money to run our program and that kind of stuff. And just really found out that that's not who I am and that's not what I want to do. And so when I started this business, I had no idea. I had to change my motto from basically changing the world to changing the world one person at a time. And when you do that, it certainly brings satisfaction for me. But you also don't make as much money in a business when you have individuals that you're coaching rather than large, organizations that you can charge a whole lot of money to. But I have to tell you, I am happier doing that than I am giving TED Talks. One, because I don't really like giving TED Talks, but I do enjoy sitting in front of people like you and just asking questions to help them discover who they are. So this will probably be a little bit of a surprise question, but I know you well enough to know that you can handle it. So if you had to tell people who Laura Maloney is and why they should watch your podcast, from the gut, or as a guy would say, or from your heart, what is that? Who are you?
Well, first of all, I want to say maybe we can do a TED Talk together because it scares me, but that would be so much fun. I don't know what I would be like on that stage, but that would be fun. We could combine our superpowers and take over the stage. Mm-hmm. And then you talked about, money, which makes me laugh because for 15 years I've been in education. I mean, I might as well volunteer my time. But I am happy. And, you talked about interviewing people. I'm going to get to your question, but you talked about interviewing people that you really enjoy speaking to. And that's what I think I want to do in my podcast. I think I want to interview. I love having conversations with people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from people who have struggled, from people who have thrived, from people of all walks of life. But when I have conversations with people that I am excited to have the conversation with, I think that is the dream, just to have those conversations with people, because if I find them interesting, I feel like people who follow the podcast will find them interesting because probably they're a reflection of me and what they like and what they prefer. So who is Laura Maloney? gosh, this is a multifaceted question. Who I am versus who I would like people to envision me as, I guess. I don't know. I've had an interesting life growing up, and anybody who has known me from when I was younger to where I am now, and just my family's dynamics, my family background, and all that we've been through as a family, and you know, the passing of my parents, of your parents, because you know, Tim lost his parents too, and just the dynamics of everything, of success, of loss, of trauma, of so many things. I feel like if people knew that about me, which is not, I'm not necessarily an open book going to come out here and pour my heart out and then everyone can be like, oh my gosh, she's amazing now. But if they knew the things that I did overcome to get where I am now, to just be happy, not get where I am now in my career, in my success, in my degrees, which, you know, the fact that I was in school suspension in junior high and high school more than I was in my classes, and now I have a doctorate, that would be impressive to a lot of people. But just knowing what I have overcome, and I'm still happy. I feel like that's who I am, and I hope to spread it. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know who she is yet. I'll tell you, maybe in a decade I'll know.
Yeah. Well,
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, John.
It is a journey, and it is discovery. And you know, I'm getting ready to turn 67 here shortly, and I would have thought by this age I would know exactly who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, but it's a life's adventure. And I think sometimes people think that they're going to get there, but you never get there, because it's always a new adventure, always a new journey. And I think what you're about to do is going to be very helpful to people. Sorry that I'm expounding on what I think you should do, but your stories, and what I love about your podcast is when you watch most podcasts, they're interviewing people that are mega successful. And the truth is, most of us are not going to get there. You know, we're not going to be CEOs of companies. We're not going to be huge influencers, but we can be influencers one-on-one. We can be influencers with our family. We can be influencers with our whatever communities we live in, our churches, our workplace, you know, those kind of things. And I think your message is going to be amazing, because you're just talking to regular people and finding those people that have found their niche, even if it's just a small one, because there's certain people out there. And sometimes when people can hear a message of hope, where a person didn't make $1 million, but they were doing something that made a difference, I think that's a great message. You want to expound on that? Does that make sense to you? Yeah.
It does make sense to me. And you know, money can't buy you happiness.
Yeah.
And how many CEOs and how many owners of companies and how many people who followed in their family's footsteps to carry on the family business, how many of those people who are wildly successful aren't necessarily happy? I mean, so I don't think that, I would rather interview and talk to people who have found happiness in a remarkable way, that they didn't actually think they could be happy, or their circumstances, you wouldn't think that they would be happy because their circumstances were so unique or so different than our own, that we think, oh my gosh, how can they feel like they're thriving, or how can they feel like they're successful, or how can they feel like this, or how can they feel like that? But learning how they do feel happiness through that, I feel like that is inspiring for happiness.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're going on an adventure that gives just regular people hope. You know, so thank you for doing that. Is there anything about your podcast or about you that we haven't talked about that you would like for people to know before we wind it up here?
Just to tune in. I mean, be on the journey with me, and it's not going to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist, so it is crippling for me to do something that is out of my comfort zone. I mean, I have 5 degrees because you know what? I figured out I was good at being a student. Most people think, I mean, Tim thinks that's ridiculous that I just keep going back to school. I mean, I'm taking a class now just because I can. I take free classes. That's what I'm good at. That's my comfort zone. So being outside of my comfort zone like this, it's going to be a wild ride. So join me and be part of it. That's all I can hope for.
So if anybody's watching this right now and they go, and maybe they don't know you at all, maybe they're seeing Laura for the very first time, and they say, I'd really like to be a part of this with Laura. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you or in touch with you, or maybe even volunteer to be a part of the podcast if that happens? Any way for them to do that?
Absolutely. I am working to launch my website, which is almost ready, but my email address is happythrivevibes, plural, at gmail.com. So happy thrive vibes is plural, at gmail. That's how they can get in touch with me. And I would love for anybody to get in touch with me. Also, my podcast is already listed. The trailer's up on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, and that's also Happy Thrive Vibes. All of the socials are Happy Thrive Vibes.
Great. Well, just to finish up again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this with you. And I look forward to continuing to be a part of it if you'll allow me. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
My pleasure.
All right, everyone, you know what to do. Subscribe, make a comment, share it with your friends. Keep thriving.